Yeah, so one of the other things I want to shift to is Veterans Affairs, because that's very important, especially in the state of Florida. How
Absolutely.
can we clean up our VA centers? And what do you kind of expect? I mean, we don't have a VA secretary right now, but what do you expect from our next VA secretary? How can we help the veterans and our
Well,
wounded warriors?
one of Florida's goals as a state has been to be the most veteran-friendly state of all the 50 states, and we're getting darn close if we're not there. We've done a number of things, and we need to keep doing more. But for instance, if you are a spouse of a active duty military and the active duty military is moved into Florida, we want the spouse that has a certificate, whether it be as a hygienist or as a nurse or as a teacher, we want them to be able to use that certificate in Florida when they come and not have to go out and get recertified if you have an active certificate somewhere else and you're transferred here because of the military. If you get a certificate in the military from your training, you get out of the military and you come to Florida, let's just say air conditioning. We want you to be able to use that certificate to get a job in Florida. As far as healthcare, that's something I'm obviously very interested in. The VA Mission Act that President Trump just recently signed that included the choice aspect. We've got to make it possible for our veterans. Right now it may or may not be, but if the veteran has a choice of going to private and chooses to go to the VA because the VA is better, that's a win for everybody. So my goal is to pay the military so much that we have too many people volunteer to take such good care of the veterans that people say, you know, I want to go into the military because I know that when I get out, they will take care of me. They will keep the promises. It's a sad, sad time when America does not keep the promises we have made to those who have kept us free. So I am a veteran, but I'm healthy. I have not used the VA personally. My dad, when I was growing up, my dad was a disabled veteran. He served in World War II in Alaska. His lungs were, quote, half frozen, diminished capacity. So I remember about once a month we would go over from Orlando, where I was raised, to Bay Pines in St. Pete for my dad to receive some treatment from the Veterans Administration. And it was kind of a cumbersome thing, to say the least. So my point is, whatever it takes to make sure that America's veterans know that each and every American treasures what they did to make sure that we are free, that's what we have to do. Not what we should do, what we have to do.
And you agreed that people should stand for the national anthem, you shouldn't take a knee, maybe not even go into their locker room.
One of my favorite shirts is stand for the flag and kneel for the cross. As far as the NFL, let me just make sure everybody listening hears what President Trump did. You know, he sent out a challenge to the NFL recently. He said, okay, you have people kneeling because they say there are some, I'm trying to think of the word to use, some inequities or some things that, injustices, things that shouldn't have happened. Tell me about them. Send me a letter. Be specific. Who received an injustice, whether it be an inappropriate sentence, too long a sentence, or they didn't get the justice they should have? Send it to me. I've shown you that I will pardon people. Think of the pardoning that he has done recently. I have shown you I will pardon people that should be pardoned. Send me the injustices and go stand for the flag. That's not the way that you get these injustices resolved. You get them resolved by telling me what it is. I'll take care of it. So that was his response. My response before that was simply, the players have every right to kneel. The owners have every right to say, bye, you're not on my team anymore. I set the standards for my team. As a business owner, I set the standards for what my staff wears. I buy them uniforms. I set the standards for how my staff treats patients. If there is ever something that my staff does that I don't agree with, they're not there anymore. So yes, they have a freedom of speech right. My staff would have a freedom of speech right to tell somebody to go take a hike. But if they use that freedom of speech right in my office, they won't be in my office anymore. So I fault the NFL owners, not the players. I fault the NFL owners for letting that continue, because the owners cared more about, they thought they would make more money by not making the players unhappy And instead, they made much of us unhappy. I'm going to admit it, and sorry, some of you are going to be unhappy. I actually watched one game last year. I watched most of the Super Bowl, but because my son came and got me, said, "Dad, come on, it's the Super Bowl." I said, "Okay, I'll watch it."
I did watch it.
I refused to watch it. I would say, if there's anybody kneeling down, I'm not watching. And I know I wasn't alone.